Hi everyone, so my name's Michael and today is going to be my day one journey of documenting a cold turkey withdrawal from Sertraline, which is a antidepressant medication. I'm currently on 50 milligrams of Sertraline and I've been on it for around about 4 years now, or maybe just over that. And prior to that I was actually on it, well, on and off it for maybe the odd 1 year stint, 2 year stint, sometimes a little bit longer. And that was mainly because a lot of my symptoms would just end up relapsing. It's kind of strange though, because I didn't really need to take antidepressant medication up until the age of 25. There was a lot of stress going on in my life as well. I was working in a very demanding job in a call centre, and I do think that contributed towards it. I do remember having some levels of anxiety when I was a kid as well, definitely some OCD as well, things like being hyper aware of my breathing, pulse rate, stuff like that, which can be quite common in a lot of anxious people. So you might be asking, why now? Why do I want to come off my sertraline now? And to be honest, I've been coasting along on the medication for quite a long time now, and I'm at the point where I don't really know why I'm on the medication. I'm just sort of on it because I'm in a comfort zone. I've never really been approached by the doctor or asked to review the medication, and I'm kind of at the point where I feel very emotionally numb, just very flat. It's not bad, it's not good, but I don't really have that kind of zest for life that I loosely remember after so long, which is quite funny because there's been days where I've missed the odd dose and I get like a very slight glimmer of what it used to feel like to be me. And a lot of people kind of identify with that. They feel like their old selves sort of died and it's just kind of there in the background, but you can never quite reach it. So the medication has this effect of just dulling everything down, kind of taking the colour out of the world. And when I think back to the way I was before being on sertraline, I had this real passion for life, the passion for music. I could really engage and connect with the music, and I felt more emotionally in tune with people, definitely more empathetic, easier to get belly laughs out of us, which, it's just the simple things that I really, really miss. Being able to connect with people in a way where I don't feel like it's forced. So I could quite easily on sertraline just literally sit in my room all day, not engage with the world, not talk to anybody, and feel completely fine with that. But when I'm not on the medication, from what I remember, I have this real energy to go out there and meet people, talk to people, connect with people, and I really miss that. I'm 34 years old now and my life's just ticking by and I'm not really having any good connections with people, and I do think the medication's contributing towards that. As well as that, I've actually been through a pretty bad ordeal of post-viral illness, or what some people refer to as long COVID. Post-viral illness has actually been a thing that's been around for hundreds of years, probably thousands of years. Essentially, viruses can trigger these kind of long-term effects, which is fatigue, brain fog, and all kinds of other weird symptoms. So essentially, I've been suffering with long COVID for about 8 months now. And through that journey of suffering, and it really, really was bad suffering, where sometimes my heart rate would just randomly spike to over 200 beats per minute. I actually thought I was having a heart attack, and I had to call the ambulance a lot of times, and I had to sort of confront this sense of mortality. Some days would be so bad where I just thought, I might actually die at some point. And when you sort of lean into that fear and anxiety, when you're basically on the verge of feeling like you're going to die many days, it sort of takes away the power of the anxiety and fear. And I never really understood that until I went through that ordeal. It's quite a funny thing because people do say that you need to suffer to grow, and going through that experience, I truly agree with that now. I don't think I would be where I am now in terms of having the mindset to approach dealing with anxiety had I not been through such suffering. Now, a lot of you might be thinking, well, why would you want to come off the medication? when you've just been through such a bad ordeal, but it is purely because of that experience that I now feel strong enough to actually tackle those issues that I've been having with my anxiety and really just address a lot of the things that I consider to be inadequacies in my life, you know, not really getting to where I want to be in life. It's really put a focus on that, you know, just being sat almost bedbound for 8 months, being drained of energy. It sort of gives us that perspective of the simple things really do matter in life. And although the anxiety might always be there in some way, it's okay to lean into it. I've been through such a terrible phase where I thought I would die many times and it never happened. And that's the thing. You've just got to lean into that sometimes. So I think with that approach, that ordeal, it's really strengthened my mindset to really sort of grab the bull by its horns, so to speak, with this sertraline antidepressant issue and just go for it. Just really lean into the fear, lean into the anxiety. It's okay to feel like that. It's not going to kill us. It's not going to take over my life. It's okay to be there. It's part of who I am. Now, I'm under no illusions. I know how difficult it is to come off SSRIs or any kind of antidepressant. There's always withdrawal effects, and that's part of why I'm doing this video series, to document that journey. In fact, I've actually came off them many times in the past, and in the past, the first couple of times I ever went on them, it was actually very, very easy to come off them. I just literally came off them cold turkey and maybe got the odd brain zap. I don't know if you've heard of them. It's like a little pulse feeling that goes through your head. So I'd get the odd brain zap, but nothing I couldn't really deal with. However, the longer I've been on them, I've noticed that coming off them or missing doses seems to be a lot more magnified because the brain gets used to that. It gets used to having this exogenous serotonin coming from the tablet rather than making it by itself. And I would always say that you must speak to a doctor before you attempt to change your dose or you attempt a cold turkey, which in most cases a doctor would never advise. They'll usually try to taper you off the medication. So you should always speak to your doctor before you do anything with your medication. I'm not a doctor. This is purely here for educational and possibly entertainment purposes if you're sadistic like that. So I'm going to call this day 1. Technically it's day 3. I've been off the medication for, well, this is the 3rd day now, and the first couple of days I definitely had a lot of brain fog, a lot of fatigue. I was feeling quite tired. I'd get random bursts of energy coming out of nowhere. I do also get this very unusual thing where when I go to sleep, I tend to have more intense and vivid dreams, definitely when I'm coming off the medication. I've also noticed I'm getting hypnic jerks as well, which is basically where you have a response in your sleep, which is physical, but it becomes acted out physically. So it seems like it's a physical motion in the dream or whatever you're doing in your dream, but for some reason the brain gets confused and you basically send the signal into the physical world. So I've ended up booting my desk a couple of times in the night, which I'm going to tell you is really, really painful. But yeah, I'm going to attribute that to the withdrawal from the medication. I also get this very unusual thing where sometimes I wake up and I don't want to scare anyone, but it kind of feels like there's a presence in the room sometimes, and this only ever happens whenever I miss a dose or whenever I'm coming off the medication. It's kind of like a presence is there and I feel very cold and chilled. So that might just be unique to me, but I've noticed it definitely plays a little bit of havoc with my sleep and my dreams. More specifically today, I did notice that I had a very, very big burst of energy and I just wanted to clean things. I don't attribute that to OCD or anything like that, which I do probably have a little bit of OCD, definitely in terms of like health anxiety, checking my pulse and stuff like that, kind of odd things. Also being hyper aware of what should be automatic functions, things like blinking. In the past when I was a kid, that was a big thing. I'd like force blinks. I don't do it anymore. And also breathing, that used to be a thing, especially when I was a kid, focusing on my breathing and then over breathing. Again, that's not really an issue for us anymore. The only thing that's really stuck with us is just checking my pulse sometimes. So again, the way I'm approaching this is that's just me try not to get worked up about it. It's okay to lean into it rather than trying to run away from it or become bothered by it. It's okay to be there. I'm also getting a lot of tinnitus, which again is very, very common for people on antidepressants. Definitely when you're starting to wind down off the tablets, I got a lot of buzzing in my ears. I've also found that my mental clarity is starting to come back into focus. A little bit of my personality starting to creep through a little bit more. I can definitely engage with people better. My conversations are better. And I'm also getting these very, very strong bursts of nostalgia, which again, it's because it's reigniting those pathways in my head where I feel like I was in the past. So it allows us to be in that sort of childlike state, or when I was younger and I had that real connection to music. I sort of seen the poeticness of life and the art of life, which I know it sounds cheesy, but it's very hard to see those things when you're on medication, which is just designed to basically dull you down. So although coming off medication definitely has some pretty nightmarish side effects, which for some of my previous withdrawals, I had some really horrendous side effects, like really bad nightmares, really intense mood swings, a lot of sweating, temperature dysregulation, things like that. This time so far, although technically I'm saying day 1, it's about day 3 now, I'm not particularly experiencing anything too severe. Definitely getting some energy swings, I guess. Maybe you could call that mood swings. I don't think it's mood swings, but my energy levels have been up and down, so I'm getting a lot of that. And I've also noticed that I was feeling quite spontaneous tonight, so I wanted to go for a bike ride. I mean, it's especially nice outside with it being summer. Got those lovely evenings, beautiful skies, and I felt really connected to that, which it's so nice to be able to feel that again. So I got on my bike and I put my headphones on, which is probably a little bit dangerous, but I was feeling kind of spontaneous and energetic and just wanting to kind of vibe with the music and just let the wind hit my face and just be really, really connected with that experience, because I've felt so disconnected from that for nearly 4 years now, which is just crazy saying that out loud. Like I say, I don't even know why it sort of got to this point. I don't think it was particularly helping too much. I mean, I still had days of anxiety and still had days where I felt like I probably would have done even without the medication. So it's sort of like, why am I doing this to myself? So this video is probably going to be one of the longer ones just because it's the first video. It's more kind of an overview of sort of some of the past and my history and a lot of the symptoms and things I've experienced in the past as well, coming off the tablets and this time being on them again and wanting to come off them again, actually just documenting that journey. So it's more of an overview today, and you'll probably find that my next videos are a little bit shorter, but I'm going to go through some of the supplements that I'm going to start taking. So I've already got things like omega-3s. It's not fish oil, I'm taking algae oil. Again, that's because long COVID triggered some weird intolerances to foods and things like that, and apparently fish can be high in histamine. So there's some connection with histamine intolerance and getting long COVID and post-viral illness. Sometimes it can trigger that in people. So anyway, omega-3s are high on the list for apparently being beneficial for mood balance and mental focus and stability. It's also an anti-inflammatory, which really can't hurt. But I'm also going to be looking at things like magnesium glycinate, which is really, really good for calming the nervous system. If you're a nervous person or if you're anxious and you just want to feel a little bit calmer, it's a more natural way to do that. Again, I'm not going to advise anybody to take stuff. You really do need to be speaking to your doctor before listening to kind of what I'm saying. But for me, these things definitely seem to have helped. So the omega-3s definitely top on my list for now. I'm going to be looking at magnesium glycinate. In terms of long COVID or post-viral illness, I actually ended up taking something called NAC, or N-acetylcysteine, which is a type of amino acid, and it's a precursor to glutathione, which is the body's master antioxidant. So it's really, really powerful at bringing inflammation right down in the body. And it was actually one of the only things that stopped me getting shortness of breath from long COVID, or what I presume was long COVID. I've never officially had a diagnosis, unfortunately, even after 8 months of going to the doctors and going to hospitals. It's just the way it is in the UK and on the NHS, which is our National Health Service. So in terms of diet, my diet is extremely clean at the moment, and this is because after COVID, when I developed this post-viral illness, I started developing those intolerances that I mentioned to pretty much anything, like really wild things like lemon, Brazil nuts, pretty much just anything you could imagine, like eggs, milk, just stuff that I'd never reacted to before in 34 years of life. So I basically brought down my entire list of foods to, at its simplest, it was blueberries, chicken, rice, broccoli, carrots, and that was about it. And apples as well. They have something in them called quercetin, which is a type of anti-allergy compound, which is really, really good for you and really great if you have any kind of allergies, things like hay fever and stuff like that. So my diet's going to be primarily whole foods. So my list of foods has definitely grown since all of this long COVID stuff kicked off, but it's essentially going to be whole foods. So things like chicken, beef mince, loads of veg like broccoli, carrots, turnip, potatoes. I'm also going to be incorporating a lot of fruit into my diet. So like I say, those blueberries, mangoes. I'm also eating things like coconut as well. Get some really good fat in there. And I love the electrolytes from the coconut water. So essentially it's going to be close to what people would call like a paleo diet or Paleolithic diet. So it's close to what ancient humans would have had. Very minimally processed foods. Again, this is just because after 8 months of eating like that, my body's really used to it now, and I've actually lost 3 stone, which is, I think, around about 36 pounds, or maybe just over that slightly. So it's really, really done wonders for my body. It's brought a lot of the inflammation down. It really helped remove a lot of those symptoms I was getting from long COVID. So I actually was getting tachycardia events, or really fast heart rate, over 200 beats per minute, and that's really, really terrifying. And this would happen almost every night initially, but I started fasting and incorporating a lot of whole foods. This really, really helped my body, so I'm going to stick with that. I do think it'll help with benefiting, reducing anxiety, helping my moods be a lot more stable, and just in general feel better. Because I think with coming off antidepressants, it's quite a taxing event for the body, so just giving myself as much beneficial ammunition as possible is really, really going to be helpful. So I'm going to document a lot of that, tell you how that's affecting us, how it's benefiting us, and maybe I'll even go through some of the recipes, because I've actually managed to create a couple of recipes that I really, really like, and I'm sure you guys will like as well throughout this journey. But yeah, that pretty much wraps up day 1. Not too much to report. Like I say, I'm getting some odd symptoms, things like the tinnitus. I'm getting a lot of the dream and sleep disturbances, and I've noticed my energy is a little bit up and down today. I'm clearly very up. I'm spontaneously making a YouTube channel with videos, so clearly I'm very aligned in that way. It's always something I want to do. It's always things that I've experimented with in the past, but I feel like just doing something about me is very raw. And I just want to say that in future, I may start doing some other types of content, but for now, this is purely going to be looking at my journey with SSRIs and some of the effects of cold turkey withdrawing from that, as I'm sure it'll be really beneficial for you guys to kind of see that it is achievable and that you can come off this medication. You should always, like I say, do it with the advice of your doctor, but I just want to be here as inspiration, or perhaps as a cautionary tale, although I hope not, and I'm sure with some of the support from you guys as well, I'm sure I'll be able to get through this and sustain it long term as well, as that's really my goal. So yeah, I really hope you enjoyed day 1 for now of my journey of a cold turkey withdrawal from Sertraline. It's 50 milligrams, just in case I forgot to mention that. I can't remember if I did mention it. This is going to be very impromptu, the videos, but hopefully that makes it more relatable, a little bit more authentic for you guys as well. But yeah, until day 2, I hope to see you again. Thanks very much. Bye for now.